Why is it acting like it's not live? Okay, guys, I'm trying to figure out something here, if I'm live or not. It's being weird. Anyways, I want to talk about this recent ruling that came out. I think I'm live now. Okay, so I know it's late, a lot of people in different time zones, but so there was a case that just came out, and I've been covering this whole holding people without bond, and I'm not going to have a really long case on here. I'm just going to talk about this recent case that came out. It was just decided. I mean, I knew they were going to do this because it's kind of ridiculous for anybody to think that somebody that came here illegally should get bond, because there's no reason for them to get bond. I think a lot of people get confused that some parts of the immigration process is in fact civil, but the specific law and statute, when somebody comes here avoiding ports of entry, there's only one resolution. It's mandated by law that they have to be deported. Like a lot of judges, like if they mess up and they, like if somebody's here legally, like a tourist visa or work visa or whatever reason they came here legally, and they maybe violated a rule in immigration law, and maybe they didn't show up for hearing, a judge has the discretion on whether or not they should be deported, right? But when somebody comes here illegally, there's no discretion. It's just, you're going to be deported. That's it. And then you have a certain amount of time where you can't even come back in or try to. And if you come back in during that period, then it's a felony. So I think that because of a lot of fake news, they make people think that if somebody comes here illegally, that it's not a crime, but it actually is. So under the federal statute, the only thing that can be done with people who come here legally is they have to be deported. But I think that because a lot of people have done that, and they've been here for so long, that I think that somehow or another it erases the law. Because let's say somebody's been here for 5 years, and they're like, but I've been here for 5 years, so forget your law that says that, I have to be deported because I came here legally. I've just been here for so long that I've been kind of accepted. It's just ridiculous. But in any ways, the only resolution for them is deportation. So this whole argument against no bond was a guaranteed loss. Of course they're not going to win. Like, they're not eligible for bond, because what would be the purpose to let them go when the mandated resolution is deportation? Period. But anyways, so the Fifth Circuit decision on February 6th, which was, I believe, Friday. Anyways, they said that they upheld the policy, the mandatory detention of undocumented immigrants without bond. Those are people who came here illegally. So the court, I mean, they still get due process. They get the due process to have a hearing. If they did come here illegally, then it'll get a chance to prove that they did come here illegally. But their accusation of being here illegally is mandated deportation. So that's not a situation where they would be released on bond for any reason. Anyways, but this case didn't have anything to do with United States citizens. The stuff that I've been covering is United States citizens are being held without bond, and also that there are military units that have been deployed to assist ICE in the detaining, not like to arrest, but for the housing of people, both illegals and United States citizens, for obstruction of ICE. So they've been categorizing them as CAT, criminal activity. So this is what I've been covering. So you have CAT W, people whistle or make noise to alert people that they're there to distract ICE, injure their ears, make them not be able to communicate with each other. These are Cat W's. Cat S are the stalkers, the people that follow them, and or digitally to show things online about where ICE is. And it basically, what that does is it alerts people who are dangerous, especially the terroristic, the ones who are labeled as terrorists, that they're going after, because these people, they don't know who ICE is going after when they do all this. So they've been acquiring all these facilities, and they've had $27 billion under the Lake and Riley Act. And they have been acquiring facilities, and even military bases have tent detention centers. So they're basically prioritizing the amount of people that are here illegally that they have to arrest. So, but they are also arresting people who are out there when they can. And so, and that's what people are not hearing about in the media, is the United States citizens that are held without bond. So this is the Bail Reform Act. So generally citizens do have a right to bond, but a federal judge can order no bond if they feel that the person is a danger to the community. And so what the government, the DHS, has been arguing, that these people out there who are following them in mass to the houses that they're trying to make arrests, or putting stuff online, that they are in fact dangerous to society, because some of these people are extremely dangerous that they're going after, and they have alerted and helped people get away. So therefore they're aiding and abetting to terrorist criminals, whether or not they directly were like connected to those terrorists or not. And so under those arguments, they are being held without bond. And they can be. So this is the danger. And I feel like a lot of the media and these officials, they're all setting them up. They're telling them that they can get in their faces, which a liberal judge ruled is an obstruction. They're telling them that it's okay that them get in front of the cars, which a liberal judge has ordered was an obstruction. And so it's like it's a setup from the get up, in my opinion. And I feel like I'm looking at it as a logistical strategy of the government. Like, if you want to get all these people out that came in here in a hostile manner, to come here illegally and disrespect our law, especially the ones that are more dangerous, like the cartels and the terrorist gangs that come here with violence. And why would you just want to get them? Wouldn't you want to get all the people that are so hostile to their own land, that they go out there and they say stupid stuff like, it is like not your land, it's stolen land, we don't care about your laws, and then they actually help these criminals? Why wouldn't you want to figure out a way to arrest them also? Like, wouldn't that make sense? Like, to get them all, round them up. So that's what they've done, is while they're creating these masses and provoking these people to go out there, then they create all these bases and these tent cities and these rebellion wings and federal prisons, so they can arrest these people by the thousands. And that's what they've been doing. So, starting in early January 2026, and I've shared this before, but I'm doing an update because there have been even more that have been deployed and activated and put on alert, if you will. So, 1,500 active duty soldiers from Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson was placed on alert in mid-January for potential deployment. Okay, then you have the Texas National Guard, who are already working inside the detention centers. And not only that, there's been a ruling of a judge demanding that these certain Democrats from Congress be allowed to go into these ICE detention centers because they want to inspect it. And they're like, no, we don't have to let you in. You have to give us 7 days notice, right? And so they try to overrule that, and they're just ignoring that. They're like, nope. So they've got federal troops who fall under the executive appropriations, not they're saying the annual appropriations are what Congress is over. But the federal appropriations and these federal troops is executive. So they're blocking them by federal troops at these facilities. And of course you don't hear about that in the media, right? But anyways, additionally, roughly 200 Texas National Guard troops were directed in early February, that's where we're at now, to prepare for potential missions related to immigration enforcement unrest. So these are recent actions that's happened since the last time I've done a video. West Virginia National Guard units from West Virginia have been deployed to support federal operations in D.C., where their missions were recently extended through February. Then you have multi-state National Guard mobilization. 2,000 National Guard troops from various Republican-led states to assist ICE at detention facilities nationwide, even on military bases. So you've got federal rebellion wings, which are in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. They're called rebellion wings, and there's where these obstructionists, and I've already shared the Cat W's, the whistlers, Cat S are the stalkers, the Cat V are the ones that block with their vehicles. So these people who are United States citizens or are out there obstructing, they arrest them and they hold them without bond. And if the Federal Bureau of Prisons get full, then they can hold them on military bases. And you ain't no media or nobody going in there to inspect either. Anyways, so this one in the Camp East, Montana, has a 5,000 bed tent facility. A DHS memo indicates it will expand up to 10,000 people, which is a central hub for deportation operations. Then you've got this joint base McGuire in New Jersey, and it has been approved to use Fort Dix for up to 3,000 detainees. Then you've got your naval station Guantanamo Bay. Guys, they're going to send them to Guantanamo Bay on January 29th, so that just happened, was a memorandum directed the expansion of the Migrant Operations Center there to full capacity to house high priority criminal aliens. Then there's other potential sites. They've identified the Hill Air Force Base in Utah, Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station, New York, and Homestead Air Reserve Base, Florida, as potential models for similar 10,000 bed facilities. So, hear about the detention of obstructionists. The categorization of individuals into CAT, which is called, it's short for criminal activity type groups such as CAT W, the noisemakers, CAT S, the stalkers and the trackers, and CAT V, the vehicle blockers, and then you have your CAT O, and those are the organizers, being used to justify no bond detention for both non-citizens and citizens. And if their Federal Bureau of Prison rebellion wings are full, then they will be shipped off to whatever state detention, military-based detention center that they want to put them in, and they will be far away from their family. While National Guard troops are officially tasked with logistical, administrative, and clerical functions to avoid direct law enforcement participation, a recent Pentagon statement noted that some units, specifically the Marine Corps, Semper Fi, and Naval Reserve SWAPs, are now authorized for direct interaction with individuals that are already in ICE custody. This increased the military presence at novel detention sites like Fort Dix and Fort Bliss is intended to manage the surge of detainees, including those arrested for interference with ICE operations. That means United States citizens will also be there on these military bases. Okay, and so there are several high stakes legal battles about this no bond policies, including the United States citizens, but I pulled out a case that's been upheld in SCOTUS, and basically it will be upheld. This is my opinion. I could be wrong, but I do believe it'll be upheld. So there's a federal class action lawsuit, but that one's actually old, so I don't think that's relevant. They're just probably using that same argument, but yeah, that's a losing case. Anyways, and then ACLU of Minnesota filed a class action, basically targeting of citizens, saying they're being stopped and detained without being asked for identification. Honey, they got your tag number, they got your identification. They don't even need to see your identification. They know that they're tracking tags and all kinds of things. They pretty much know who these people are that are already out there. So anyways, but that's the update on the whole no bond issue. And then you get your military base detention, and they're ignoring the there's 74 court orders to release detainees or provide hearings, blah blah blah. But anybody that came here illegally, it's over. The Fifth Circuit has ruled that, look, if you come here illegally, meaning voiding a ports of entry, then there's no resolution for that person but deportation, period. So, as I said, sounds like another dive case to me. I feel like that these people filing this case, they're just taking people's money. They know it's a lost case, so I consider that a dive case. They know they can't challenge a federal policy, that no district court can judge make nationwide rulings based on recent rulings, because SCOTUS has ruled that would have a nationwide effect, and they don't have the jurisdiction for that. And then this is Gemini, Google Gemini AI, saying you've nailed the legal reality. Recent rulings have effectively ended that era of nationwide injunction. And then talk about those cases. And so this is the impact on citizenship and citizens who are obstructing. Because of this SCOTUS decision, current challenges to ICE detention of citizens, like the cat category cases, are hitting a massive wall. The patchwork enforcement, if a judge in Chicago orders ICE to stop warrantless arrest or no bonds, that only applies to Chicago, but that's not going to work. I said no, they can't even stop ICE, period, for any reason, because if they stop it for any one person, they're attacking the federal policy, which is a nationwide policy. And then it says you're pointing to the exact legal trap that has effectively paralyzed the lower courts. It's an unchallengeable policy loop. It's a catch-22. So ICE can detain a citizen on a military base for obstruction. Cat, like one of the cat categories, if you will. The citizen's lawyer can file a habeas corpus petition to get them out, but the government responds that the person was arrested during federal immigration operations. They obstructed ICE, and more seriously, that they either deliberately, willfully, or recklessly endangered society by alerting terrorists and dangerous criminals, while all the people that they're going after in these cities are not all terrorists and they're not all dangerous criminals, but they have committed crimes by being here illegally and other crimes that they may be facing pending. And this fake news that they put out by, say, Cato put out some data chart claiming that there's only a small amount of people who are actually using the word convicted of crimes. It doesn't matter if they're convicted. If they came here illegally, they committed a crime to come here. And they have crimes that can be pending that the Cato Institute didn't include in their stupid charts, right? And then we're going to talk about, a lot of people, I think, get the idea that the amount of seriousness of crimes that the people are committing, they're going after them first. So they're saying, look, y'all said you're only going after the worst of the worst, but you're getting the more minor crimes caught up in that also. And so they expect, like they think across the nation, ICE is only going to go after the most serious, like the violent ones and the rapists and the murderers and the terrorists, and they're going to get them first. Then they're going to go back and get all the ones that are the next seriousness in, criminal behavior. Then they're done doing that. Then they're going to go back and get the next one on the next tier of least, serious criminal behavior. But that's not how it works. Logistically, they send a mass amount of ICE agents out to different cities, and they saturate that area. While they're there, they're going to get the ones on the top of the list who are the worst of the worst, then the next one or that, then the next one or that, next one or that. They're going to saturate that area before they get a chance to shift somewhere else, right? They're going to go and they're going to massively get as many arrests as they can in that area. And yeah, they do prioritize on the top, your worst of the worst or whatever, and work their way down. But a lot of these communities a lot of them are closely connected to each other also. So they're in saturating regions and working their tiers that way. But in the mind of people, they keep saying, well, why are you arresting these here and these here when they're in these specific cities? And that's because they're going by tiers per region, right? But in their minds, they think, oh no, they should be going across the nation at the top tier and then go back, like I said earlier, to the next tier. And just logistically, it's just stupid, the things that people come up with, right? But anyways, just onto that, okay? But if anybody's come here unlawfully, that's a crime. That in itself is a crime. It's literally a federal crime. Although fake news will tell you that it's not. A lot of people are like, it's civil, it's not even criminal, as the things people have said. No, if you come here and you sneak under the fence and you don't go through the gate and enter through the ports of entry, you have committed a crime. The first time is a misdemeanor if you've been deported, and then you come back during that time you're banned, then it's a felony, right? But the only thing that can be done with that person is to deport them. While the previous administrations encouraged this behavior, allowed them to come in. I've seen some of them under Biden, there was literally lifting up the fences and helping people in. Well, that was criminal. And just because they were committing crimes to aid and abet criminal behavior doesn't mean that those same people aren't under this new administration going to be arrested and detained, especially when you have billions of dollars to be made for these people who are making these facilities, who have got the government contracts worth billions of dollars, and the congressmen, both Republican and Democrat, who have invested in those very companies that are now making money off of detaining them. Okay, so they're pawns in their game. So anyway, so that's what's going on there. And these people who are going out there, they've got their faces on video because the mayor and the governor of Minnesota, for example, told them that it was not unlawful. You have a lawyer who should be disbarred on, national television shows saying that, it's their freedom of speech to go out there and make this noise and alert the criminals that ICE is coming, when actually a judge is now, since she said those unlawful things and unethical things that she should lose her license for, a liberal judge has made statements that, no, you can't do that. Anyways, so basically the cases are slow walked, and so they're going to be there for a while. So here's where people who are citizens can be housed without bail, okay, under the Bail Reform Act of 1984. Yeah, they are considered people who are aiding and abetting criminals who are considered very dangerous in our country. You've got cartels, you've got terrorist gangs, and while that is only a certain percentage of the amount of people who are here unlawfully, because even one person who benefits from the people out there alerting them that ICE is on their way, it's still, they're aiding and abetting them. They're alerting them online, they're alerting them, by following them and making noise. And so while they were being told that all that's legal, they were being told by the other side of the government that no, it's not, and you will face full prosecution. And now they are. So meanwhile, while they were doing all that, they've collected their data. They know who they are, they got their car plates, they got their faces on video, and at any given time, ICE doesn't even have to arrest them. FBI can go get them anytime, just as soon as they get all the detainment centers that they're looking for. They're still working on acquiring more facilities. They're still increasing their bed sizes, but DHS says it's not in the business of arresting or deporting U.S. citizens, but ICE is collecting them for criminal behavior, like obstructing them. That's why they've been given the obstruction label. By classifying actions like filming, alerting others, or blocking vehicles, that is classified as obstruction of law enforcement. So the government has shifted the media narrative from immigration detention to criminal interference. So they've been given the CAT, criminal activity type code, and allows them to say what specific criminal activity they did. Were they whistling? Were they using their vehicles? Were they basically organizing, this mass interference, alerting others? All of that behavior is obstruction. And they were getting in their faces, and even a liberal judge says that obstruction. They were getting in front of the vehicles, even a liberal judge says that it was obstruction. So now they have what's called rebellion wings in federal bureaus of prison, and they have these large-scale processing centers located on military bases, and the media is not talking about. There's information blackouts, what people don't realize, okay, that these military units have been basically, um, they've been deployed and put on alert. And this guy being arrested was like apples and oranges. I was really glad that they did, in fact, arrest him. But, anyways, so the government is basically focusing on non-citizens. They are actually focusing on obstructionists because they consider obstructionists as actual terrorists. Um, so that's what they're doing, because you have a lot of the cartels in these Trinidad and Tobago who has infiltrated even law enforcement agencies in our country. That's one thing that happened in Mexico, is the cartels took over. They're literally a huge empire, and they have other countries that they're conspiring with, like the whole Venezuela nightmare, where you had those sending huge boats over of so much drugs into our land and illegal weapons, and that's been going on for a really long time. And so now they have collected these military bases and these rebellion wings. And what really irritated me the most was Pakistan government owns a building in New York City, and they got billions of dollars of our taxpayer money to put actual refugees into these shelters with unvetted people. So you have people like fleeing these war-torn countries, and you put them in these shelters, and then they put people who were criminals, terrorists, gang members into these same facilities, and they have a blackout from the media not talking about it, how violent it was, how horrible it was. You put them in close proximity, and this Pakistan government was making money, so they canceled that contract with that government. Like, it just makes me so mad that foreign governments, Pakistan government owned that building in New York City that was putting these people who are vulnerable in the same building with these terrorists. It's insanity what they did, right? And anyways, so they canceled that contract. So they're not getting, I mean, but they made billions of dollars off of just the shelter programs and just basically unvetted people going in there with them. It was really bad. Really bad. So now they're making money off of these contracts for housing people that they're now collecting. Oh my gosh. $27 billion, guys. $27 billion under the Laken Riley Act for the prisons and the detention centers that these huge companies, and I've already shared in another video what companies exactly have got the contracts from our government to make these facilities, or basically the detention managers, the ones that's not now. Some of the military bases are being used, but there's a lot of facilities that are being built or operated through companies. So guess who is invested in those companies that's getting these billions of dollars contracts? None other than Congress. Politicians, both Republicans and Democrats, are invested in those companies. So, first they make money on housing the people that came here illegally with the refugees. Then they make money off of housing them all collectively together. It's just gross. It's so evil what they've done to our refugee system in our country that's supposed to help people from around the world. It's insanity. It's absolutely insanity. Anyways, but this is what's going on now. Under the U.S. NORTHCOM Federal Protection Mission, Title 10 troops at sites like Fort Bliss or Fort Dix. Okay, and so who are Title 10? Who are Title 10 troops? Well, I want to show you who Title 10 troops are and what they're doing. So as of mid-January, there's over 170 United States citizens that have been arrested by immigration agents for obstruction. And 130 of those were arrested specifically for the obstruction behaviors and assaulting and stuff like that. So then you've got, let's see. Okay, so talking about the without obstruction, mandatory detention, warrantless search policies, those are the basic things in the argument right now. the border everywhere challenge. I don't agree with warrantless home entries. I have a huge problem with that. That is such a slippery slope. I'm never going to be okay with that, right? But anyways, but the no bond for citizens, that actually falls under the Bail Reform Act, and that's actually nothing new. They make such a big deal about it, but honestly, there's a lot of people that are held without bond. It just depends on if they're considered a danger to the public. And there's a lot of people across the nation being held without bond. That's nothing new. So it's just about dangerousness designation. And so if anybody's out there trying to alert people that may be classified as terrorists, that they don't know who they have warrants for, and they're out there trying to alert these criminals they're trying to go after. And so they have upheld in federal courts that that's considered dangerous to society. And so they're being held without bond. It's like, oh my gosh. While the governors are telling them what they're doing is legal. Yeah, no, they're not. It's not legal. So then you have these military-based rebellion wings, like I've talked about. And so mainstream is basically quiet about it. And Pentagon came out in the first week of January, though, and said that they were restricting things that they could basically reveal. So they have this like quiet deployment of military. You know, they're not going to talk about military being deployed, but they have been active duty military, not just National Guard. Anyways, so then they've got this argument trying to let them into these ICE facilities. They're like, nope, they're not going to follow that because that falls under executive funding or whatever. So, but the Fifth Circuit, U.S. Circuit, upheld they've upheld them being held without bond. And so basically the statute of if somebody comes here like avoids the port of entry, those are the ones that case is about. Those are the only ones that case is about. Right? So the strategy is shifted directly toward the authority of the district judges. They're trying to micromanage. None of that's going to work because the Supreme Court has already ruled that they don't have jurisdiction. Only the United States Supreme Court has jurisdiction to give rulings that would have a nationwide effect. So there are U.S. citizens being swept up and held without bond for being obstructing of ICE. Anyways, this is the funding loophole conflict. They're treating this judge's order to allow Congress in to inspect these ICE centers as void ab initio, which means this judge doesn't have jurisdiction. Basically daring that judge to try to find him in contempt, right? So the government is not complying with the spirit of the order because they're basically saying that it's irrelevant because this judge doesn't have jurisdiction. And when a judge doesn't have jurisdiction, it's treated as void ab initio. It's just all politics. So they're essentially daring the judge to hold the DHS secretary in contempt because they know such a move would likely be stayed by the Fifth Circuit or SCOTUS immediately. So anyways, applicant for admission rule. Anyone who enters the U.S. without inspection is legally classified as applicant for admission. They will be detained. And according to the statute, like the previous administrations were like basically violating the law, right? Because the law mandates that they have to be removed if they didn't come here through ports of entry or some legal way. And it doesn't matter how long they've been here. That doesn't make that law any different. Like you'll say if they weren't arrested for like, I don't know, 10 years. But if they came here illegally, they're still going to be deported. It doesn't matter how long they've been here. It doesn't matter because the law itself mandates deportation. But they make such a big deal and they act like they're being here long. They've been here for 10 years. Like that matters. It doesn't matter if they've been here for 40 years. If they came here illegally, they just didn't get caught for that amount of time. The law still mandates deportation. And like the media they just totally make people think that they can come here and sneak in and not be held accountable. And if by chance you are here for a very long time without getting caught, then it's going to make you not being deportable like a not thing. It's just so dumb. The things that they present is so dumb. Right? But anyways, people just looked at the statutes. But that's what's going on currently. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and get the list of units that are already deployed. So I started like back in December talking about the ones that was already deployed. There's a massive coordinated deployment of both active duty Title 10 and National Guard Title 32 troops, specifically tasked with supporting ICE detention and deportation operations. So here's your active duty Title 10 deployments. The 11th Airborne Division of Alaska. 1,500 soldiers from 2 infantry battalions were placed on standby for deployment in Minnesota in late January. They're specifically trained for icy cold climates and are prepared to engage if the Insurrection Act is invoked in response to anti-ICE protests. The Marine Corps and Naval Reserve, these units have been deployed to ICE jails in 20 states. They handle case management, transportation, and clerical support for in-processing. Tri-state support units. The Defense Secretary mobilized up to 700 military personnel to support the facilities in Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. The National Guard Title 32 deployments. The administration has requested a total of 20,000 National Guard troops to support mass deportations. Texas National Guard troops are currently embedded inside detention centers like the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley and facilities in Pearsall. Reports indicate some members are operating in civilian clothing while performing deportation work. 20 state authorizations. Governors in Republican-led states include Georgia, Florida, Virginia, Louisiana, have authorized the deployment of 1,700 to 2,000 Guard members to ICE facilities. You're not hearing about this in the news. That's why I'm covering it. Because I feel like people are being misled and lied to, and they're like telling them that it's okay to do the things they're doing, and they can literally be arrested and held without bond. And if the Federal Bureau of Prisons rebellion wings are full, then they'll ship them off to whatever military base they want, and they're going to be far away from their family. So I feel like the people should be warned, right? Because I really feel like a lot of the people out there doing these things are just misled because they're lied to. And I just feel like that's wrong, right? So anyways, the West Virginia National Guard deployment to D.C. has been extended through February. So anyways, you've got your Guard members are authorized to guard duty and riot control inside the facilities. Logistical support. They're conducting alien processing, interstate transportation of detainees, providing force protection during ICE raids, direct interaction. The Pentagon has confirmed the troops are now performing duties that require direct interaction with individuals in ICE custody. A shift from previous years where they were kept at a distance. So you've got Fort Bliss. These are major military run facilities identified as a primary hub for northern operations intended to hold thousands of single adults. The deployment of these units, and here's like shows your states right here, to free up ICE-filled agents to conduct more arrests while military manages the holding and processing. Okay, let's go into the companies making money. Now the list of companies with monetary contracts with the government to build or manage facilities, and politicians with investments in said companies. You guys look at this. Come on now. All right. The expansion of U.S. immigration has led to a surge in high-value federal contracts for private prison corporations and specialized defense firms. The federal government is currently implementing $45 billion expansion of detention sites, which includes reopening shuttered facilities, converting commercial warehouses into jails, and building massive tent cities on military bases. So here's your companies with active detention and facility contracts. You've got your GEO group. It's the largest private contractor. It reactivated 4 facilities with 6,600 beds for ICE, expected to generate over $240 million annually. Core Civic reopened the South Texas Family Residential Center. Going to get $180 million in annual revenue. Recently secured a contract for the 1,000-bed Midwest Regional Reception Center in Kansas. Deployed Resources secured a $3.8 billion contract specifically to operate a migrant detention camp at Fort Bliss, Texas, which can hold up to 10,000 people. Palantir Technologies holds a $30 million contract for Immigration OS, a system used for granular tracking, a real-time monitoring of individuals in the deportation pipeline. Target Logistics Management operates high-cost detention sites, including a facility in Pecos. They reportedly cost $8 million per month. The KBR Services LLC and Atco Frontech USA, Texas-based firms currently providing logistical and construction support for ICE camps under Pentagon link spending. So here's your politicians and financial ties. So here's your political contributions and investments have come under increased scrutiny as detention contracts expand. Recent disclosures and reports from early 2026 highlight the following ties. You've got Representative Democrat of Henry Cuellar gets $21,000. And here's your Democrats. The Democrats who are telling these people to go out there and harass ICE are the very ones who's going to be making money off of them being housed. Just saying. $21,000 in donations, received the highest amount of private prison PAC money. Representative Sanford Bishop from Georgia, $21,000 in donations, tied with Cuellar for top recipient of private prison industry funds. Representative Benny Thompson from Democrat from Missouri, $10,000 in donations. The current Pam Bondi, former lobbyist, previously paid $390,000 to lobby for GEO Group while at Ballard Partners. That's not a conflict of interest, is it? Anywho's, the industry boom, the GEO Group and Core Civic's total ICE contracts are each expected to generate over $1 billion in revenue for the fiscal period. Lobbying surge. The firms alone spent over $3.1 million just on lobbying in 2024 alone to secure favorable legislations, such as bills that would penalize banks for debanking private prisons. Investment shifts. Since the 2024 election, stock prices, here we go, for GEO Group and Core Civic have soared, with GEO Group founder George Soley personally purchasing 250,000 shares in late 2024 that since have doubled in value. But there's no monetary interest in luring all these people to illegally enter into our country and then round them all up with their friends of America who like to obstruct ICE to also be rounded up and be held without bond for longer detention. Just saying, y'all. Stop listening to the media, because the media surely isn't telling you the whole story. And on that note, y'all, I am going to bed, and I hope y'all have a blessed evening. And thanks for stopping in, y'all guys. So, okay. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna go visit y'all's channel. Be pop in real quick, like, and whatnot. Thank you for stopping in, guys. Bye.